Okay, welcome to the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District Special Meeting on Thursday, February 28th, 2019 at 6:15 p.m. The time is 6:23 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Chelsea, you want to take a poll, please? Chair McNairland, present. Vice Chair With.
Here.
Director Reed. Director Balcom.
Here.
Director Marshall.
Present.
Okay, is there anyone from the public wishing to comment on a non-agendized item? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding approval of ESSU agreement with the City of Ukiah. So this has been an ongoing process over several months. There were some discrepancies between the ESSU count that the district had, the ESSU count that the city had. There were documents showing different numbers. So it was quite this has been going on since the lawsuit actually. And having an agreement between our board and the city agreeing on what ESSUs are available is a requirement to move forward with the bond. So I asked Duncan to come this evening because he is the person who worked on this and knows the most about this, and he can give us a little bit of background, and that we have come to an understanding and agreement with the city, and hopefully we can sign this agreement and move forward this evening. So Duncan, I'm going to leave it to you.
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to start out by saying I'm glad Sean's here, because I think without Sean's hard work and diligence in going through some of the city records, we would have never got to the conclusion. Because Sean found, I think he said, correct me where I'm wrong, Sean, 2 Excel spreadsheet mathematical calculation errors, which threw all the numbers out of whack. And we're talking about only the period from 2003 until the present. We're not talking about all those years in advance. And what we had to do is, as an exception to the operating agreement, there are 2 things that the city and the district left open to discuss. And one was the calculation of the number of ESSUs under the project capacity portion of the old Amendment 2 to the participation agreement. And the other is something we're still working on, which has to do with the jail facility. Now, on the project capacity, at the time that the current bonds were issued, the capacity of the plant, according to the North Coast Water Quality Control Board, was 9,800 ESSUs. And the plant, the expansion was to add 2,400 ESSUs. Now back in 2003, recognizing that it said there were 9,800 was the capacity, the city was giving the district figures of 11,498 ESSUs. In other words, almost well over 1,500 more than the plant capacity. But then here's what happens to the numbers then, and through the next 6 or 7 years. 9 months later, the number of ESSUs drops down to 9,900. Okay, so that's reasonable, and we're not. This is the time these numbers came from the engineer Brown and Caldwell, who was putting together the new plant information and design and things of that nature. But then it goes crazy because 3 months later, we've gone from 9,900 to 12,044. Now, I've only been in this county for 51 years. I don't know of any time 2,106 connections occurred in a 3-month period. 6 months after that, there were another 564 connections added to it. So in a 9-month period of time, on just the total number, I'm not breaking it down by city or district, 2,770 connections were added. Now you can just imagine somewhere back then, and nobody who currently is involved in this case from the city side was involved in any of these numbers. So this is not to blame any of the people, whether it be city manager or anyone down the pecking order. Something was going wrong with the method of calculation. So when we get involved in this, and the litigation is going on and on and on, we know that we have a plant capacity issue, because the plant capacity is 12,200. Well, in 2004, and that's with the 2,400 add-in. In 2004, they were up to 12,670. So they were, without the construction occurring, they were already 270 over capacity. And then it drops several times, but then by 2006, when the plant's under construction, we're up to 14,419. And so throughout this litigation, this has been a major issue, because when these numbers changed, it affected what the district was reimbursing the city. And so the numbers showed that when you go to other numbers, that the city was overcharging the district. So when we get into all the discussions to settle this case, we realize that we can't go back before the 2,400. There's no way we can throw numbers out there to a jury and we can make it really difficult on the city, but we have a partnership here and we're still trying to exist with one another. And so it comes down to, let's look at the 2,400. And the 2,400 numbers were out of whack. And I'll just give you all of them. This is just one. There's 2 pages to this. This is a document prepared by the city of Ukiah called ESSU Statistics Report. Now, the very first page of this is really important. This is a statistic report of April 1st, 2018. Now, as we're getting for trial, this is the information that we have available, and that information is the district has used 1,018.97 of its allotted number, and the city's used 618. So they say we only have 451 left. But none of this makes sense when we look at this number. And it doesn't make sense because during the course of the litigation, we got every single building permit issued by in the city limits as well as within the district. And we hand counted every single one of them. And none of the numbers made sense. And so eventually I sent a letter or memo to Sean. And Sean, I think, really got on it and really began looking at it, because I think he understood there's something wrong. I'm wrong, or they're wrong, but at least he approached it from an open mind. And then you'll see, if you look at page number 2, this is a document that we received in January of this year, same date, April 1st, 2018. You'll notice the dramatic change in the new Plant 20 ESSU used. The district drops from 1,018 to 396, just rounding it off. Now, this wasn't totally accurate either, because as Sean brought out to us, we didn't have 2003, 2004 calculations in it. And so he would, and also I think 17 and 18. And so he was going back through those records to find out what the accurate calculations were. We had, again, Brown and Caldwell saying in one point that this is how much you used, and somebody else saying this is how much you used, but it didn't make sense. So Sean went back through those records, and I think we came within 1 or 2 ESSUs of agreement. And so that's where this agreement comes out of, that we've asked, as a result of Sean and Ernie and myself, and you were at one meeting, and I think Sage was at one of our meetings too. Yeah. we came to an agreement, and the proposal is, just so I can lay it out, I think you got it in the mail or in an email, part of your agenda package. The paragraph number 2 of the proposed agreement shows what the city has used and what the district has actually used. And this is as of January 10th, 2019. Now, for both, these numbers have changed since then. Probably the biggest change for the district is because of the construction going on Rush. That's probably about 70 or so ESSUs out there, it's like a 90-unit apartment. So ours will obviously change probably significantly since then. But on page 2, you'll see the actual numbers that we have left as of January 10th. 1,162.54. Now, when you start thinking about, and I know we all think about it, I actually, believe it or not, think about it too, attorney fees. What this resolution of this issue means to the city, well, the city will get about another $3 million worth of connections using these numbers, because we now know that in our project capacity portion, the city has only used 420 of the allocation. And so the difference between the 420, and you look at the first page, you see there's a lot of ESSUs there. For the district, the difference is 621.51 ESSUs. So what it's going to generate for the district is $7,607,282.40 in additional revenue. Now that's revenue used for paying the bond, and that's specifically what it's identified for, the project capacity of the bond that was issued. So it's earmarked money, that's for sure, but the city and committee and we have agreed to this being the right number. Dave Rapport and I basically worked together to come up with this form of agreement, and he intends to present the same agreement to the city council. From the draft agreement you have, there's a date written in there. That'll have to be modified slightly, but the main thrust of this entire agreement is meant to be the settling that part of the litigation which is in the current operating agreement. So if you have any questions about any of it, I'll try to answer it. Sean's here, maybe he can explain if he chooses to, but it doesn't have to. This mathematical error that I'm really glad he found, because it's only through his writing I found it.
Well, I know
It was the people were not able to figure out how, this is what Sean told me, how to properly add in an Excel spreadsheet.
This has been on our radar for a really long time, and I'm glad somehow it ended up on Sean's desk.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. You're welcome.
I really am. And I know part of how this affected our district is that when we had a new possible development, we weren't exactly sure how many ESSUs we had, and at one point we were asking the city for a letter saying, hey, if we issue these and somehow the plant goes over capacity, we don't want to be held responsible, and that was not good way to operate and have business. So this is part of our settlement agreement and our new operating agreement that this get done. This is mandatory to move forward with the bond, and I'm glad to see that it was just a mathematical error that got corrected, and that we can just move forward with numbers that we all agree on.
And while you're still talking about that, because you brought up something that triggered an issue, during that time period from about 2002 on through about 2008, the city, and I don't know why they did this, but they would include within our calculations the will serve letters. And like there's Garden Gate, I can remember. Yeah. Garden Gate had 200 ESSUs tied up for 7-8 years. Didn't pay a penny for it. But yet, those ESSUs were used in the allocation. And at one point, there were 449 will serve letters out there. And when Frank McMichael and I first talked about it, this is how far back it goes, I said to Frank, you can't keep issuing will serve letters for no value. If a contractor, and I understand why contractors need it, they need a will serve letter, they need it for their banker, they need it for the county planning, they need it for city planning, wherever it is. They gotta have a letter showing that there's adequate capacity for the sewer for them to do a project. Great, give them the will serve letter, but you need to set up some type of reimbursement to the district for the cost of the district. Failure to do so is a Prop 218 violation, because then the district, the other people in the district are supporting the developer.
You're meaning if it doesn't get built, or holding them until it gets built, or should they pay for them?
Not the full amount, nowhere near. I'm just saying, like, the district has had to pay interest on bonds and other things like that. And I think the Honorable Chair should have a committee to address the will serve issue, because we have the issue we're dealing with it right now with one developer, and there's no policy on this board. And I don't think the board can randomly say, okay, this is what it's going to be. The board needs to establish a policy that for will serve letters, you would do A, B, C, and the will serve letter will be good for X period of time, and it will cost the person who needs the letter X number of dollars, or have a method of calculation. So, anyway, it costs the district a lot of money over the years, and in the future, I think that we do need the development, and we shouldn't punish the developers, but we should not have to carry their burden.
And if they don't develop it or don't get it approved, then they don't pay the deposit back, or?
Well, the amount that they would be putting up would be non-refundable. Now developers, unfortunately, pretty much have to put the whole ballpark up to start with. And when you're talking about $12,240 in ESSU, and if you want to put up 10 units alone, I mean, you're talking about $120,000.
About 200.
Yeah, I know that one out Lover's Lane.
Yeah.
And that's a backbreaker for the developer, because it's going to take him 2 to 3 years to get the development through the government processes. And the other side of me says that's unfair, but to say, okay, give me all your money right now, that way I can run and spend it. Have a method for him to reimburse a district in advance a fair amount to cover the cost to the district on the bonds. It's not on anything else. We're only talking about project capacity. But have it there, and then you can give the will serve letters, and then before their connection occurs, then it has to be brought current.
So at one point for this board, there was such a lack of development that the existing ratepayers were taking on the burden of paying for the expansion portion of the bond.
Right.
Right, and so that's a Prop 218 issue as well, and that's also a fairness issue. So, and then the other way, I'm not sure if you really clarified this, but how we were paying parts of the city or the sewer budget was based on those ESSUs.
Right.
So when our ESSU numbers were higher randomly, and our percentage was higher, that means we're paying an overall higher percentage of the overall budget. And that was costing this district a lot of money. So this was a huge issue.
You can go through the sewer statistic reports the city prepared, and during that time period, in the bottom it says, identifies every single will serve letter by name and exactly the number of ESSUs that have those will serve letters. And the district gave those will serve letters. You know, it's the district's fault.
Well, but also, I don't think you should, until they're actually hooked up or some revenue has switched hands or some money has switched hands, you know, our ESSU count shouldn't have gone up based on a will serve letter. Right. And it was. That was the policy back then. So.
But, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Now, See, I'm more of a, that one still confuses me because I'm more of a proponent of allocating the capacity and having them pay when they hook up because of the fact of the expense, in a development like that. If you're talking about building 200 houses, that's going to be over the course of maybe 15 years. I don't see, and it hinders the development because you can't come in and throw,
No, I don't disagree with that.
$2.5 million down. So
I don't disagree with that at all. My whole point was like, the city shouldn't have counted all those ESSUs
Oh yeah.
towards our portion of paying the budget for the sewer when nothing was ever built and nothing was ever hooked up. It was like we're paying for capacity that was not ever used.
Yeah.
So,
And
but as far as
I'm
like,
real glad we adjusted our calculations on the way that we calculated ESSU's use in the district back to the way the city does it, because there was a huge amount of capacity that was given away that isn't being utilized. If you went back through for how long that calculation was used, every one that I ran out was at least 50% more than it was on the city's calculations, and I think they were more realistic. In fact, I went back and got water usage for some of them, and even the cities was overboard if you went on the water usage. So, it's kind of, you gotta throw the dart and hope like it's sort of in the right place. But Sean, how do they do it? You work in Sonoma County. How do they do it in Sonoma County?
It depends.
And everybody does it different.
They kind of do, and I don't think, I've said this before, there's no perfect way of doing it. Some methodologies are biased towards being accurate at residential and not so great at industrial and vice versa. But I do think the one the district was using was probably overestimating use and, like you said, sort of taking capacity off the books that wasn't actually being utilized. But I don't think the city's is perfect either. I think the real thing everyone needs to remember that at the end of the day, it's just a planning tool. It's not perfect. It really is. It's an estimator.
Yeah.
That's why you
But
need to establish
how-
a committee to establish a policy.
Well,
Yeah.
that Hildebrand Construction doing our rate study,
Yeah,
can't they suggest,
they probably can. But
I think that would
it would
be
not be
useful to
hard
get-
That's
for
their contractor.
it
Well,
would not
it
be
isn't
hard for
right
us
now,
to round up the methodologies used by folks, in our region and have a look
Right.
at all of them and
it should be included in.
decide which one
Well, not in this document, because this was very specific.
everybody
No, I
would
mean
like,
the rate study, just to give us. an
Yeah,
idea.
it'd be good if the
Yeah.
city, if we could get kind of a joint policy that mates up, right?
Yeah.
That's what we need,
Yeah,
is a concurrence between
Yeah.
both parties on a methodology. Otherwise, we're gonna have trouble. It needs to be the same.
so let's bring it back to this ESSU agreement because that's what's on the agenda. So at this point, does anyone else?
Yeah, I think this is tremendous. I mean, we were operating so long, we didn't have a baseline, and that was part of the problem. We were issuing these will serve letters in anticipating we could do something, but there's no way we could really prove it. Now we finally got some numbers down. That's tremendous. And something to clarify what Julia asked earlier is, we would issue these will serve letters, but they really weren't being utilized, and so they're getting logged onto the books.
but they're counted, they keep being
They
counted.
counted, but we weren't collecting anything, but we still had to pay out based on where those numbers brought us in our share. So all of it was a mess, and this is great. We've finally got a foundation.
Well, the other portion that I think of is if we collect all the fees right up front, we're still counting a lot of capacity that's not being utilized for a long period of time. Like you throw those 200 houses, take 200 houses off, and we collect the money. granted, we're paying down that money on the bonds, maybe that's what we utilize it for. But we've taken all that, we're now raised our percentage capacity-wise on our share of the plant operation. And we're not putting anything in the pipe.
That's why I suggest as a result of all the things we came through here, the board have a committee that establish a policy, I mean, to bring back to the whole board,
Yeah.
to establish a policy to deal with, I don't care if it's a developer or if it's, I want to add a room to my house.
Okay. Chelsea, could you make a note to put that on our next regular meeting agenda, which would be to appoint an ad hoc committee to recommend a will serve letter process?
And I think it needs to be jointly
With the city.
With Sean and Tim or whoever.
Well, what part of the committee can do is talk to the city and see how they do
Work
it.
together with them.
Yeah.
Teresa, appoint ad hoc committee to,
Well, they kind of do it the same way that
Establish
we've been
will
doing it,
serve
right? You
process.
take the whole money up front.
That's how they do it.
Yeah, and that's,
Right. So
that's fine for something like the Willow Terrace apartment project where you're gonna be moved in there in 8 months or a year after they pay, or the Reese Winery where they're in there a year after they pay.
So I think you'd be a great member on that committee.
I'd love to be on it.
Just talk
I just
yourself
can't
into
wait.
it. We
But
will
then
finalize that next
You
meeting.
look at Leverage Lane, and I've been talking with Leverage Lane engineers for 2 years.
I've been bidding that subdivision for 20.
Well, you started with Wybell. So,
Yeah.
you know, for some it takes longer than others, and I think for some it's gonna take longer. They need to have a break where they don't have to come in when they get that commitment letter. And 200 ESSUs multiplied by that, $2.4 million. They've got to come up with cash in advance. Well, come on, give me a break.
Well, and I think we're also in a little different situation than the city, where the city doesn't have the room for all that growth, and we do.
We have tremendous
So
growth.
we have a different. It's apples to oranges, really. I think when you're looking at developers and things. So we'll tackle that. We'll tackle that with an ad hoc committee next meeting. Okay. So for now, though, we do need a motion to authorize the chair to sign this agreement.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Director With and a second by Director Black. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
If you drop by one of these days, like tomorrow, we'll give it to you for signature.
Okay,
And
we'll
then
have it.
Yeah,
said a
because
little
the date here is January 16th, so we'll just have to change the date. Have you sign it, and then I'll send it to Mr. Report.
Okay.
Do you need me to
Sounds
stay, or would you like me to leave?
This is for no, I think this is pretty simple. I know we had, so the next item on the agenda, we might stay just in case there's any questions. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of the revised rate study agreement. So this board did approve a rate study agreement, and it got sent back to the city, and then the city made changes to that agreement, and then it's now coming back to our board. And there's also about a $3,000 increase in the cost, and after it came back, it was already signed. So all of the changes that our staff has made.
Excuse me, Teresa?
Uh-huh.
I just got a text. I have to get some medication for my wife.
Oh, sure, that's
So
fine.
they close at 9 minutes.
Okay, go for
Okay,
it, yeah.
thank you.
So all of the changes our staff made to this agreement are actually just made in blue pen, and the city was okay with that. So this is going to be the actual document as changed.
I found one on another change I thought might have to be done on page 2 of 8, 4.3, subcontractor payment. The use of consultants or other services to perform a portion of the work of this agreement shall be approved by city. Do you want to insert NUVSD? Because everywhere else we inserted that.
Yeah, missed one.
Yeah.
where is it at? So I can put it in the actual contract.
Page 4.3, first sentence on page 2. approved
Well,
by.
the city already signed it, so are we allowed to make more changes?
Well, we can, yes, we can make a change to it and send it back to them and tell them that we've made that change, and then if they want to say
Just to
it's
be,
no longer approved because you made a change, then they can do that. But I think they agreed to all of these changes, so it looks like that one was just overlooked. We're
So
not
do you want me
making
to
it,
add it?
please add it. We're not making a substantial change to anything here.
So it needs to say or UVSD or and?
And, just like in all the other places.
and then on, the project schedule on page 4. Oh, this is of the, Hildebrand, this is the, actual, agenda proposal, yeah. It says that they'll begin in the fiscal year 1920. 2019-2020, FY 2019-2020. So it says mid-December, mid-January, so we're already in late February, and so are we pushing all that back because?
They're working on it now.
Oh, they are?
Right? Yeah, they've
Okay.
been working on it a while. We had a kickoff meeting with district staff. I'm not sure exactly how accurate this schedule is now, but work has started and everybody's trying to expedite it so we can stay on track for refinancing.
Because wasn't this part of the refinance?
It's important for refinancing,
Yeah.
yes. Everybody's trying to catch up.
Get through there by July 1st.
So we're supposed to have our first joint, so we have 3 joint meetings coming up then, huh?
Yeah, and I believe that I wasn't there for it, but I think Mark and Dan have some dates out there that they're getting ready to float.
Oh, good. But also on page 5 of 8 of the contract, it says professional liability coverage. This policy shall extend from blank to blank. So was that supposed to be filled in with the dates of the contract or some date? Of professional liability coverage number 3 on
Well,
page
if there's
5.
no dates in there, then they don't have any professional liability coverage.
But it's very extensive in what coverage needs to be
I think that
provided.
may start like when it's fully executed, but I can find out.
That probably should have dates on it. And then on top of page 7 of 8, where the signature page is, it says on the very, very top, 7.8, termination. This agreement may only be terminated by either party. And so then it goes down to explain it can either be the city, the district, the city and the district, or the consultant. So that's 3 parties, not either party, unless the city and the district are considered one party.
I think they are considered one party in this, because
Okay.
they're entering the agreement as a team. So.
Okay. Okay. And
Anything else?
if we don't, it says point of contact for each group. If we don't have a city manager, district manager,
Right,
who's the point of contact for?
right now, Mark, we still have Mark contracted, but Mark thought we were getting a new district manager tomorrow. So that's why his name is crossed out, and when we do get a district manager, this will be handed to him. But right now, Mark is contracted to work on this for us.
Good. Okay. That's all I have.
Does anyone else have anything else?
I also want to make sure that timing was set up, Sean, so they've already started moving along and.
Yeah, some of them are tedious, as far as just getting all the water use and other data they
Sure.
need to start doing that, and
Yeah.
a lot of that's already been collected. The other people have marching orders to go round it up.
So maybe push back a
Apparently,
bit.
it's quite a bit of data too.
You know, I bet.
Yeah.
So it's being pushed back a bit, maybe, but not to months that we're talking.
That's what I understand.
Good.
Okay, so we just need authorization for the chair to sign this revised agreement.
I'll move that.
And so, second.
There's a motion by Vice Chair Webb, second by Director Marshall. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Do you sign
With
it?
the revisions.
With this, yeah, revision. Let me just get that out of the way. Wow, all these places? Oh, because I have to initial all the corrections. Okay, I'll do this after the meeting. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then we will have to communicate with the city for them to initial the little correction we made as well. Okay. Next item on the agenda, announcements and other business matters from staff. So the one announcement we would need to make is that everybody on the board, everyone on the board received an email from Alan Gardner. And it was quite unfortunate. He was really looking forward to taking this position. His wife got into an accident just a couple weeks ago, and he's not able to move or take this position because of that. We do have our number 2 person on the list. Moments after receiving this email, Chelsea was asked to call him and see if he was still interested in the job, and he said he was. He needed to check with family. It would involve a move for him as well. And Chelsea, is there anything you want to report that?
I spoke with him. He's actually on vacation. He's on the East Coast with his family right now, and he actually returns late tonight, I believe. He's gonna have a conversation with his wife because he has to move.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's gonna get back to me. I'm gonna call him again on Monday, but he is more than 99% gonna be at our regular meeting
And
to meet the board.
so that gives us about 13 days. If we want to do something different with the contract than the one we already have, we have paid about $2,000 in legal fees getting that contract to where it is now, with all the going back and forth, right? So I don't want it to go through the attorneys anymore unless it absolutely has to, because I think it was ready to go. But this does give us a little time. I know some people were uncomfortable with the salary. We haven't really talked to this candidate about the salary. I think it just said $90 an hour. It didn't say, salaried position. So this does give us a little bit of time as a board to discuss that if we wanted to change some things up. I know at least one board member has asked me about that. So that's the progress now. Next guy, and what we can decide is, do we want to simply interview him at the next board meeting, or do we want to interview him and, if we like him, offer him the position at the next meeting? So that's something I think we should decide as a board as well.
So I also called him and I talked to him extensively, and he called me back and said that he would like to come up tomorrow, as early as tomorrow or on Monday, because he has talked to his wife and he's really interested in the job, but he has other job offers and he can't keep all those other job offers hanging. And so I would like to call a special meeting on Monday or Tuesday, and with the majority of the board voting, we can call a special meeting for an hour or two interview, and he said he'll be up here. And he said we could call him. His plane lands at like 7:10. We could call him to find out right here, and you can talk to him about coming up and meeting him, or we can decide that.
Where does he come up from?
He's going to be flying into San Jose at 7:10 tonight, and as soon as his plane lands, he has cell coverage.
He lives in Temecula.
Okay.
Well, he's going to be in San Jose
So
with
I'm not
family,
sure
I guess.
why Chelsea, when I asked her to call, got different information. And then the next day, Director Bachman called and got different information.
So the different information.
He's gotten different.
A change of mind, whatever, is it possible for us to have like a special meeting next Tuesday and interview him? which gives us time to get it out, advertised, and
Well, it doesn't give us time to revisit the contract issues that you might
Well,
have.
we should do
Can we do
that right
we can't
now.
do that tonight.
No, you cannot do that tonight.
Uh,
And we
Can we have
cannot
a
have a
closed
meeting.
session prior to the interview and everybody think about it and we have a discussion about it at a closed session prior to the interview?
We can discuss, that, I don't know if that's actually a closed, by law, closed session item, discussing how much we want to pay. I
Well-
know if we're discussing it with him, it has to be open session.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, he has a job right now, and I'm not sure if he wants to be interviewed in open session or if he wants to be interviewed in closed session, because we talked about this before.
He said he'd come up and meet us in a meeting. I said we have to make notification because he wanted to come up tomorrow at noon. I said, well, we have to have 24 hours notice for a meeting, so he knows it's a public meeting. But
No, you can have closed session during a public meeting. So I don't think he knows that. Does he have an employer that knows he's gonna sit and interview for another job?
he didn't make it sound
Well,
like
maybe
it.
we
He's
should.
considering, yeah, he did.
Okay, so my thing is, going forward, I want him to have one point of contact for this board. You know, and when I asked Julie to coordinate with me moving forward,
I did.
I got a nasty email, and this is it.
Oh, you're
saying,
very
oh,
petty. You're being
no,
very petty
no.
because I took the initiative to contact him and I told you exactly when I contacted him and I told you exactly what he
Well,
said.
let's
Okay?
not
That's
get,
not coordinating.
let's not get wound
Telling
up
me
about.
after the fact is not coordinating.
Right after I talked to him, I
That is
emailed.
not coordinating.
Do we have to go through a little
Yeah.
argument here?
Yeah, let's-
What I prefer to do,
No.
what I prefer to do is we have to find a replacement. And I like the idea of giving an interview first.
There's his, his
Yeah, okay,
resume.
fine. I would like to give an interview first. After everything that I've just heard, I'm feeling like if we meet on Tuesday, we can do an interview. But if we have to review the contract, maybe that should be done either, we can't do that at the same time he's here.
No, because I don't like this. I don't like a lot of things in this contract. I don't want any severance pay in the contract. And I think we need a 6-month probationary period so that he can be reviewed, his job, his job progression, you know, what he's been doing for the first 6 months. And so that was all left out, and when I asked to have it added in, I was told it's too late because,
Did you share this contract with him?
no,
Good.
no.
Well, here's the other thing too, is maybe we should put together a contract before dragging him up here from Temecula, because if this is a person that doesn't want to move 300 miles with no guarantee of a job in 3 months or 6 months and no severance, and he's moved his entire family up here, maybe this isn't a job he wants to interview for.
And maybe he'll take it.
So,
How do you know?
Well, maybe we should propose that to him first before you bring him all the way up here.
No, he wants to get up here and he wants to see the area. He told me he wants to come up next week because he has other job offers, and he wants to make the decision. He wants to bring his partner, he said, up here and he wants to do it early next week. He requested that.
All right.
to me.
So
I
should we?
don't know, because that's not the conversation.
Let's call
that
him
we
up
had.
and talk to him.
Well,
So yeah,
I'm not gonna call.
when I try to act as chair and coordinate
The
him,
chair,
I get stepped on.
any board member can help. This is if you look in the contract, it says time is of the essence. And you were complaining, every meeting you complain that you cannot
Stop.
run the board.
Stop.
It's too much work.
We had already contacted him,
I
and you
didn't
went and
know
told him
that.
something else.
I didn't
Well, then
know
maybe
that.
you should ask me before, instead of just going off and doing your own thing.
No, I have every right to contact.
No, you
Yes,
don't.
I
You
do.
cannot speak
Yes,
on
I
behalf
do.
of this
I
entire
know.
board.
I didn't speak on behalf. I asked him if he was
You're
still.
getting him here Tuesday?
well, Julie, are you
No,
gonna,
no,
are you
he
gonna?
told
Because
me.
if you're just gonna begin to make an argument, then I can't really discuss anything with you.
No, I'm not
And
arguing.
I'm not. And
All I did was I called him
no,
and asked him
because
if he was
this is
interested.
my point. I want to do my job.
Yeah.
And my job is to try to find a district manager.
Yes,
Not
that's what I'm-
participate in your petty argument. okay?
It's not my petty argument.
It is right
No,
now.
it isn't.
What I want to do is if we have to interview this guy, then let's start talking about interviewing this guy and not
Before we
about what
lose
your,
him.
what your
Okay.
personal,
So
what
it's-
your personal discontent is, okay?
I have no discontent.
Sounded
I have
like it.
initiative,
Now,
and
I
I'm
wouldn't
trying to.
call that necessarily-
I'm trying to.
I call it argumentative.
I'm trying.
I'm
to
trying
get
to
this guy
find
up
out what
here.
I need to decide next.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, so if this guy's willing to make a trip up here, I think it's worth making an effort to have an interview. The one condition is that if we don't have a contract in place, what do we propose to him? And if we're going to just ask him to come up and visit, that's a whole different thing. That's not an interview. That's come and see Mendocino County.
No, it would. I mean, he expects to be. You know, we interviewed him once on the
So
phone for us
when he
to
does
meet
come
him.
up, and do we give him any job specifics? Do we give him any, what his salary is going to be? Do we discuss that with him too?
I asked him what his.
Actually, I'm gonna address this to
That would be
I'm gonna
something
address
better
it-
served on the phone or through, excuse me, email correspondence. I would think that we would want to, if there's major changes we want to make to the contract, we should make them before we email him the contract and let him decide if that's an attractive situation, or let him make changes that he wants to make, just like, kind of like what we did with Alan.
The challenge is
I
that
think,
I
think running him up here now, I think that your point's well taken in that if we're gonna change, he knows what that contract was. It was pretty much what he put in his resume, what he wanted. I think we're gonna run him, if we take out the severance pay, if we take out, if we put in the clause that we can terminate him in the
But it
first
says
6
you can
months,
terminate him any time. No, it's just a performance
Please
review.
let
then
Director of Health.
I think if we put all, what you asked for, I think if we put that in there, I think he's gonna walk. I do. You know, I wouldn't move to Ukiah unless you guaranteed me at least 6 months worth of, and you might fire me tomorrow. So I'm an at-will employee. So I'm looking at it that way, that I'm not moving to Ukiah for a week, you know.
Okay, well, we can talk about that in the contract. We can talk that out.
So I'm proposing if there's major changes to this contract, and basically it's it's something we will advertise to if this person doesn't want it, this is what we'll advertise, this is the salary, these are the benefits, this will be it.
I suggest that,
I don't think we keep revising it every time somebody new comes along.
I suggest that if this individual doesn't want to take the job, for whatever reason, that we contact a headhunter that's well-versed in finding people to fill positions like this and utilize their services.
So at this point, does this board
And-
want to have a special meeting to revise the contract? We'll send him this revised contract because this is now our new salary, because we did post what we were going to pay, right? We posted what the job was. If these things have changed, somebody should know that
I think-
before they apply for a job
Well,
that's
let's
300 miles from the house.
let's just keep the contract.
Okay, so then what I hear as a recommendation is keep the contract as it is. Let this candidate know what it is. If he's interested in coming up here for an interview based on what how that contract reads. Is that what you're saying? So we don't need to revise the contract?
It's the will of the board if they want to revise the contract. So I've been talked to independently by 2 different board members, each wanting to change different parts.
Okay.
Salary, lowering it, taking out the severance, adding in performance reviews, and because of that, that's why I am opening this up to the board to find the board's will. If you choose to revise this contract I would need you to do it before you interview someone, so they know what they're interviewing for.
Well, is this contract, was it made public to somebody?
Yeah, we had the whole thing on video last meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
so at this point, it's the will of the board.
Well, I think that we're in a crisis. I think we need to just leave the contract then and get the guy up here, because he kind of said to me that he'd like to kind of have a feel next week.
So that's kind of what I was hearing from the beginning, is if we can let him, we have a contract in place, we can do the interview because he knows the terms of his employment here.
If the board wants to just keep the contract that we were gonna enter in with Alan for our new district manager, then that's, of
Sounds
course, the easiest and cheapest way to do this.
Okay.
And he said currently he makes $150,000 with full benefits, and he said so he would expect a little more than that without benefits. I said we don't have benefits, and I said, you know, is $180,000 without benefits, and he said yes, that would be acceptable. And he would relocate. He would move here. He wouldn't be commuting like Alan had proposed.
Let's, email him the contract so that he can read the provisions and see if he wants to be interviewed on Tuesday.
I can't make Tuesday. You guys
Wednesday?
can have a meeting without me.
Wednesday?
It's too soon.
Huh?
Monday,
Monday, there's no way we can have a meeting Monday. When is it gonna be posted?
Tuesday at noon. You can't make the middle of the day for an hour.
I can't make it on the middle of Tuesday,
No.
no.
She
In the
can even
evening?
make it with a week's notice.
In the
So-
evening? What about
He
the
can't
evening?
just wait till the regular meeting?
No, he mentioned to me he has other job offers, and it's unfair to keep those people, you know, in limbo for that long.
But if we email him the contract and he likes what he sees, then
But are we sure without talking to him in person?
We're not offering him the job, we're showing him,
yeah.
Basically what the conditions of the job are.
it's the
But
job
if
description.
he says that's adequate, then we're gonna have to say,
Then we'll
okay.
interview you. We'll have our second interview.
Is there any day, I'm leaving on Thursday and I'm not gonna make the next meeting. Okay, so is there any way that we can do it sometime before now and next Thursday at 2:00?
Well, I'm available, middays are pretty difficult.
Well, any evening,
Oh, yeah, I can make the evenings. Can make that.
Wednesday?
Tuesday?
Okay,
Wednesday?
so,
If I'm emailing him the contract, he won't get it till Monday. Unless you wanna advise council. to
that's
do that.
fine. Nope, and, no, I mean, if he wants to drive all the way up here without seeing a contract and without anything, then
I can do
that's
that
what
Monday.
he's communicated to her, then he can drive
You
up here and do
can
that.
give him the contract when he gets here.
No, let's do,
I didn't check if the room is available. It's available Monday and Tuesday midday, but I didn't check any other dates.
that, yeah, because she would never be able to be here midday with her business, and, yeah, those two items.
And I don't think it's available because one of the districts has a meeting the first Wednesday of the month.
In the
Okay,
evening.
well
might
then
not
let's just do it Tuesday evening.
See if
Can we
that's-
get an agenda out? So there'll be one thing on the agenda. I don't know if it will be closed session or open session at this point, so,
Now, that's gonna be predicated on him. It can,
we're having a meeting to accommodate whatever he's told Julie.
Yep.
Okay, so Julie, from now on, you can talk to him, you can be the liaison. I'm done with it, I'm out of it. You can ask him if, he'd feel more comfortable in closed session or open session.
Okay.
he wants to read the contract first before he comes up.
You can send him the contract if he wants to see it, and then,
What time on Tuesday? 6? 6:15?
Yeah, that's fine.
6.
6?
Whatever this is.
6:15,
6:15.
please. Is that okay? I'm sorry, because it's tough for me to get.
Andrea will love this.
Yeah. So
So are you emailing him the contract?
I thought you said give it to him when he comes here.
Well, do you have a clean copy of it? I don't have a clean copy.
Yeah, I can get a clean copy of it.
And then Chelsea, if the room's not available tomorrow evening at 6:15, then just coordinate with Julie on
Tuesday?
when else he can meet.
Okay. So there's gonna be one item on there?
Yep.
And you'll let me know what the item will be?
Well, it will be,
Interviewing new candidates.
Or it will be a closed session.
Or it'll
item.
be a closed session item, so you'll let me know. Because it needs to be posted on Monday before.
Can it be?
because that's-
we're gonna call him right now.
Closed session item. It can be a closed session item to interview them, but.
Any discussion, the contract has to be
Well,
open.
the interviews have always been public. More.
No.
Nah.
They weren't.
Okay.
The interview was closed, and then when we actually discussed the contract of employment, that was open.
Okay.
So it just depends on him whether he wants to show his current employers on YouTube that he's interviewing for another job. So
I like the
we'll
idea of
leave
it being, for that reason, maybe closed.
Mhm.
And-
Well,
Didn't Doug say you just can't discuss compensation in closed session?
right,
Correct.
exactly.
So then
Correct.
if Julie
Yeah.
says he's fine with that, then he's fine.
Okay,
with
so
There you go.
Julie will coordinate with you, Chelsea.
Scott is on the
Okay.
phone. I was gonna ask him right now.
Why don't you walk outside and talk to him?
Okay.
We'll finish the meeting.
So,
Okay,
just
item number
finishing up the
6
meeting,
on the
and
agenda.
we're,
Discussion and possible action regarding continued recruitment for, we already got that one.
that. So the, is
Uh,
there just no action, or do you guys wanna make a motion to,
No,
no action taken?
no action taken. And well, I guess,
Adjourned.
I don't know why she's calling him, but yeah. All right, we're adjourned, 7:16.
I think she's calling him to determine if he wants to,